Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another buddy fight video. Today I'm going to be talking about the design space of generic cards. So obviously Grace of the Sun Deity is a very powerful card. A lot of people love it and feel like it's exactly what the game needs, and they're not wrong to think that, but I personally hate this card. I hate it a lot. And I only hate it because I can see what Bushiroad is doing with this card. So first off, what is the card even doing? The card is basically hosing on effect damage and it's hosing on removal. So those are the two things that the card is doing. So why is the card doing those things is the real question. So to me as a designer, that is telling me that the design team at Bushiroad for Buddy Fight has lost the ability to control the effect damage that cards are doing, and they lost the ability to control the removal on their cards. So this isn't the first time that they lost control of an aspect of the game, because cards like Grace of the Sun Deity are just a prime example of the problematic design space that's going on at Bushiroad. So Loyalty is another example of a card. It's very powerful. It's very played in a lot of decks because it's needed to be played in a lot of decks. So the problem that this is trying to solve is people are spam calling monsters, so let's put a limit on how much they can call monsters. So obviously when this card was made, they probably didn't anticipate you calling as many monsters as you could, especially now in the game. You could call a whole bunch of monsters in a single turn left unchecked. So their check was to create a card like Loyalty. So they lost the ability to control how many monsters you can call, so Loyalty was created as a result. Buddy Block is another example of this. They lost the ability on how many times you can attack or the power level of aggro, so Buddy Block exists to reel aggro in check. So now only 4 attacks will deal damage, and that's it. So it limits the amount of aggression a deck can do. While that sounds like a good thing, it's a bad thing because on the design space, now they just don't have to care because they can point to Buddy Block as the answer. Same thing with Loyalty, same thing with Grace. They just don't have to care about effect damage because these cards exist. They don't care about how many times you could call monsters because Loyalty exists. And without these cards, a lot of decks can go completely AWOL and out of control. And that's the biggest problem with Buddy Fight right now, is just the power level is so high that a lot of decks can just go absolutely out of control without these cards to keep them in check. Obstruct, while it's a really poorly designed card, it was supposed to answer card draw. Like, Buddy Fight has an insane level of card draw, and Obstruct basically was supposed to be that limiter, except I just personally feel like this was just poorly designed, and it wouldn't surprise me if in the future they have another card like Obstruct where the idea is to just limit the amount of cards can be drawn in Buddy Fight. And then when that card's printed, now they don't care about how many cards you could draw because this card limits the amount of cards you are going to draw. Then we have Re-Arc Empress. She's a card that hoses on searching decks. So now they don't feel like searching decks is a problem. I don't think it really was a problem, but I guess certain decks just searched way too much or were nothing but searches. So Re-Arc Empress basically reeled those in, and if the deck searches too much, then this is supposed to be the answer. And then we have Re-Arc Moon, where it's supposed to hose on link attacks because link attacks are about to get really powerful. Is that a surprise? No. Why? Because people change the way they play because of Buddy Block. But either way, it's all the same, just trying to fix problems that got out of control in the game. And all of these cards are just prime examples of the fact that Bushiroad just completely lost control of the game and need to find ways to try to bring it back to a more acceptable level. The only problem with that is now you're forcing players to basically run these cards if they even want to have a chance to play like actual buddy fight without it being completely stupid. Because nobody really enjoys one-turn kills. No one really enjoys just very long combo string turns that just lead into you losing and there's not a whole lot of interaction that can be done. So those all just create very bad feelings and very bad environments, and Grace of the Sun deity was probably the most needed fix currently, but the fact that it needed to exist was the problem in the first place. They created their own problem that they then needed to solve because they could not manage their game properly. So that's just kind of my take on all of these generic cards. And there's a whole bunch of more generic cards that are hosing on specific strategies. I don't necessarily think a lot of those were relatively needed, but the fact that they exist is still kind of telling that they want the ability to control their game and they don't really know how to control it. That's kind of my hot take for today. I do think Grace is unfortunately needed. It is a very powerful card, but it kind of makes me worried on where Buddy Fight can go in the future, considering like what is the next aspect of the game that they're going to lose control of that they need to print a silver bullet for. And they try to make these cards as accessible as possible so that way people can play like the way Buddy Fight is supposed to be played, but that doesn't exactly happen all the time. So that's kind of my hot take on this, and feel free to leave a comment on your thoughts about the design of these silver bullets and generic cards in the comments below. And as always, like and subscribe for more content, and I will see you in the next video.